Clinical pedagogy ba dapat? Check mo. Oo, tama. Ayun. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Clinical Pedagogy and Ethics, Breakout Room 2 for Law Clinic Management. For our speaker, we have Attorney Ernesto Neri, Director of the Xavier University, Ateneo de Cagayan. So, Attorney Ernesto Neri, please take the stage po.
All right. Oops. Thank you so much, Gab. So let me just fix this. Okay. So greetings, everyone. Mayong hapon. Thank you so much for taking time to join this session. It's basically a conversation and a sharing of experiences. So for the next couple of minutes, we will be trying to address 2 points. First one is maximizing and remodeling online legal service delivery as informed by our experience in our clinic called SUCLA. No? SUCLA means Xavier University Center for Legal Assistance. We've been running the Tabang Legal Program at the start of the pandemic, and it is our hope that we can share our template as well as improve it as we go along iterating the service. Now, the second point is we want to jump to remodeling of CLEP, again, as informed by our experience using what we call the Ignatian pedagogical paradigm of service learning. So this objective really is how do we design CLEP in order to deepen learning and bring about more meaningful engagement in the community, right? So before we begin, I'm not sure how many you are in this room. Medyo an intimate group, 13, lucky number 13. I'm just gonna throw some few questions, right? 2 questions for the first point. No, do you have an online legal clinic in your law school? And I just want to know if how is it implemented. So I think you need to chat your answer in the chat box. Just type if you have an online legal aid clinic. Ganun na lang. You don't have to answer the second question. I just want to make a feel of how many law schools actually operate an online legal aid clinic. So let us see. Okay, nope, no, none. Okay, so it's good kasi maraming wala, and I hope this is useful. And then the second is, let's just think about for a second if you are a client, no? You are looking for a legal service, and what are you looking for in an online legal aid service portal? Do you need? Is it convenient for you if dapat you could schedule it yourself, or is it okay that you just have to send a problem? Just think about for a moment. If you are a person who want to seek legal help, what things are you looking for in an online legal aid service portal? Are you comfortable if you give your address or phone number or your real name? So I understand this might be a difficult question. Oh, we have Facebook page. Okay. And then there's a scheduling of online consultation. Right. Sige, so it's an open question. I don't expect quick answers. So that's what we'll try to unpack this afternoon. Okay. So thank you so much for your answers. And let us now touch on the whole thing that we will be talking about this afternoon. It's the Tabang Legal. This is the ex-SUCLA online legal counseling service. So in March of 2020, the height of the pandemic, LEB and the Supreme Court made it very clear that the CLEP implementation will push through. So you don't have any choice. At the time, I think we were struggling. All of the classes are all online. So we were forced to actually operate the clinic online, right? So the point there is we decided to build a law clinic and to rebuild SUCLA and center its operation around this online legal service. So the first question really when we try to think about the program is how do we actually gather questions from the public, So among the various apps that we can use to open up an online intake system, parang most of us might find it easy to point to Google Form, no? Because it's free, it has an integrated system, easy to build, easy to design, and it can store a database. So this is me saying that Tabang Legal is essentially a Google form, right? The Legal Aid Center started and is still operating through a Google form, right? And how does it look like? It's very simple. It's embedded in our university website, specifically under SUPLA, and it's just a form asking a couple of questions. We made it a point to not ask as many questions because we don't want to overwhelm the client. So simple lang yung questions. No? We want to ask your, well, let's begin with what is your legal concern. No? What's your name? So we did not ask for a complete name. We do ask for a number, a location, not a specific home address, and an email for us to reply, right? As napansin nyo, we didn't even ask for like a document upload option because that also, you need to have a Google account for you to upload a file. So we did not include that there. As you can see at the top two questions, we asked them what kind of service you want to get, merong legal counseling, and then we added this new feature called short legal learning sessions for organizations. So far, it's still no organizations have availed of it, no, from the portal, but we do give short legal learning sessions as part of our CLEP, which I will be explaining later on. And we also included here if this is a referred service because we have existing partnerships and we want to know if they were referred by these justice institutions. So it started out as a basic Q&A platform. Once you submit, usually we give that answer within a day to 3 days, depending on the complexity. And later on, I'll explain it has different kinds of responses depending on the kinds of question. Now, I will now be presenting to you how it actually works. Okay. So as you can see, I hope everybody can see the flow chart. But the messenger feature now, the automatic response is now set to, they are asked to go to the Tabang Legal page in the Xavier University website. So it's all going to be channeled through the Google form only. So it starts from the Google form. Then once it is submitted, we call the submission as an RLA. It's a request for legal assistance. It then notifies our official email of the center. So as director, it is connected to my, I have access to the email, so it notifies through my phone if there is a request. Within 3 hours of the receipt, I will be assigning a code for case tracking, and then I will evaluate the question based on 3 categories. The three categories are, is it a legal emergency? Is it a non-legal emergency? Or is it a case for referral? Now, for legal emergency, I handle it directly or my partner supervising lawyer, Father I.J. Chan Gonzaga. Legal emergencies include cases of arrest, search, inquest, violence under VAUSI, other similar urgent cases. But I have to tell you, so far, we haven't received any legal emergency. Now, for non-legal emergency, the director quickly delegates this to a junior intern. No? So SUPLA intern who's completing its 1-year internship for proper processing. And the assignment process has already been predetermined at the start of the internship. There is a random, for example, we have an intern list of around 15 interns, and then we generate a random list, no? And then it's in order. We will just assign. For example, we will receive a request. We will assign it to the first intern, then the second request to the second intern. So it's really, they have no choice, basically. No? They have to process the request assigned to them. So the interns could not specify what topic they want to engage in. Right. Now, proceeding from that, the director, I will then notify the intern that an RLA is slated for him or her. And then the information I get from the Google form, now in the Excel database, I'll just copy paste it and send it to the intern through Telegram. So we use the platform of the application called Telegram to transmit the information. So under the current rules in the center, the intern has two options. No? If the subject matter falls within the core advocacies of the center, does not fall under the core advocacy of the center, the intern can reply through a written legal recommendation, right? Or if the intern feels that she or she needs more information, the intern could reply to schedule for an interview, right? So two choices yan. They could write a recommendation or they could schedule for an interview. Now, another thing that I would want to share is if the request for legal assistance, its subject matter falls under the 10 advocacies of the center, which I will share later, the intern can decide to raise this concern to a level 2. So we have levels, I will explain them later. And the effect of this is that if it falls under the 10 categories and then the request requires a submission of pleading, then the intern will invoke the creation of a case team who will then write the pleadings. So that's the basic format, right? It happens within around a 72-hour period. And then the third one is referral. If we feel that the request is more very specific to a particular office, we would refer that to that office. So earlier, I was talking to you about the level of responses. So ito yung mga level of responses ng center. We have only two. The first level is the basic response. No? Para siyang, it's like the traditional legal aid in a community, no? Where you just answer a question and then that's it. So generally, we have a lot of level ones. Questions such as, attorney, is this a scam? No, they've been receiving threats na ipo-prosecute daw sila from an app. Is this true or not? No, you could just respond. There's a pattern of this, etc. You don't have to worry about it. You have, etc. So mga basic questions. I could even remember one of the latest requests was they want to seek help in interpreting their lease contract about use of computer. That's a level 1. So we just respond to them using our legal knowledge, right? So in the level 2, on the other hand, it's a far more different animal because we then require the creation of a case team, as I shared. And if it falls into the 10 center advocacies, and these are the 10 center advocacies, no urban poor, farmers' rights, indigenous people's rights, human and civil rights violation, accountability, labor rights, gender-based violence, victims of sexual exploitation, abuse of authority, cases of child support, and remember, there's an and, no? And then they require document preps. Like, we want an affidavit to file, we want a petition to be filed, we want an affidavit to be filed, then the intern can trigger the creation of a case team. Right? So what are the insights? So actually, we're not managing 1,000 requests. Excuse me. We receive like an average in a week. No, we receive around 2 to 3 RLAs a week. So it's not really that overwhelming. But in total, we have already received 128. And this is the breakdown of the RLAs. Property and business, 37, criminal, 29, family persons, 24, civil liberties, 20, labor, 18. As you can see, no, ang pinaka-top questions of people really is property and business. So, people were asking about do they actually, about the inheritance, about their neighbors, etc. So there is that filtering system as well. Now we move, and also as you can see, 15% are level 2, 85% is level 1. So there's a question here. Sige, I will try to address the possible conflict of interest checking later na lang. But it's really just a quick reaction to that. It's the director's determination because the director has access to the RLAs, diba? So upon checking, if there is appears to be a conflict of interest, then we will reject the request. So far, there's none. So it's gonna be in the first line of screening. Okay. So we will share some notable cases, only three, no? But there are a lot, but I want to share three top na cases that we felt that Tabang Legal really made an impact in the individual lives of these clients. No? The first one is actually one of our earliest cases. Tabang Legal was rolled out in 2020, diba? So that was the height of the pandemic. And that time, there were a lot of ayudas. The LGUs are giving out ayudas left and right. And there was this instance where a sari-sari store owner, not in our city, no, but in a far city, parang meron siyang pinost sa Facebook, and then it was attacking the barangay captain because of the unfair distribution of the ayuda. And for the first time in her life, she received a complaint. No? Summons from the prosecutor's office requiring her to submit a counter affidavit because she was charged of cyber libel. We took in the case, she actually accessed the Tabang legal portal through her son, right? And we were then coordinating. So this falls as a level 2 case. Therefore, we constituted a case team. Well, to make the long story so short, the case was dismissed. No, a similar case happened where as a worker in a mall, Facebook live an arrest. No, Facebook live, like binroadcast na yung actual arrest by bust operation ng police in a city, not in CDO but another city, neighboring city. Pero he added a caption in the Facebook live coverage that seems to imply that there's some, parang there was some sort of planting. So though there was an additional comment. And this was seen by the police, and he was charged with cyber libel. So first time to encounter the justice system, didn't know what to do. He was referred to the Tabang Legal Portal, and we were able again to constitute a case team. And we filed the counter affidavit. They filed another response pleading. We also filed. Eventually, it's very good to say that the case was dismissed. No, never filed in court. And these are again, all of these things were operating online. But of course, during the actual filing, we then met the client to actually tell him what to do in the actual filing, the counter affidavit. There's another case on VAUSI enforcement where we have a client referred by the CHR who parang she was, her enforcement of a VAUSI case, she was the complainant, cannot be enforced because there's a missing sentence in the order. So parang there's a need to transfer property, but the registry of deeds was not included, that part of the order, so it cannot be enforced. No, so we entered and constituted a case team to write a motion to amend the writ of execution, and which was granted. And then the third is we actually take in a lot of labor cases, no, and we've taken a recent case. We've won that case after 2 years of labor litigation of a laborer who was dismissed because he was accused of pilferage, and that was a big win for our center. Actually, 2 case teams were constituted here because it was a 2-year period na litigation. Okay, moving on. No, so to properly manage the Tabang Legal, 3 structures emerge. And I think this is something useful to reflect on for our clinic operators, managers in this session. In Sukla, we have 3 structures. No? The first one is the Council of Interns. So it primarily sees the operation of the center and the Tabang Legal program. The Council of Interns possess the power to organize teams. No? Para siyang central management committee. Now, the 2 other structures are pivoted to help interns process the RLAs received by the Tabang Legal. The second structure is the mentorship structure, which is comprised of 3 to 4 junior interns assigned to a senior intern, right? The senior intern, the purpose of this structure really is for the junior intern to ask for help and for the senior intern to mentor the junior interns. And we want to have a structured kumustahan in this structure. That's why the group is required to conduct monthly kumustahans, and they're also required to give feedback and mentorship session reports to the to the Council of Interns, right? So there is a deliberate, intentional mentorship structure so that there is a support system for the junior interns who actually write the responses sa mga senior interns who already went through the process. And the third structure is the case teams, no, which as mentioned, it is constituted for a level 2 response. This is convened by the director and it's composed of up to 4 junior interns and 1 supervising. So I could also be a supervising lawyer. So they will be the ones doing research, drafting pleadings, filing the necessary documents. Okay. Now, we're moving on. It's very important to point out that if you just deliver pure legal aid in your legal aid clinic without any effort to help our students process the experience, I feel like this is actually a very dangerous thing. If we just give legal service and that's it. Because if kanyan lang, there's no attempt to process their experience, it might lead law students to become this sort of parang lawyer-centric, messianic attitude in a sense that they would unconsciously reinforce a client's dependence on lawyers. And we don't want that, right? We don't want clients to be dependent on lawyers at the end of the day. This would just perpetuate this sense of helplessness, disempowerment, and status quo. So that is why we need to develop character, right? Legal aid is not just a service, but it's an opportunity for students, law students, to develop values and character. But that's the bigger goal of CLEP in general. So we have structured reflections as shared in our structure. As you can see, feedback and reflection is integral in our operation. That's why we have mentorship teams with monthly guided reflection questions. And then the case teams and case conferences, they also share their reflections. So for example, this is an example of a reflection of an intern. No? We were talking about the recent, we filed a recent motion to oppose some pleading, and we then scheduled for our case con. This is consolidated different case teams. No? So we would like to point out that this is just sharing one of the insights from one of our students. So importante talaga ang reflection. And I am trying to highlight that because that's really the next point of my discussion. I'm now going to the second point. We've tackled Tabang Legal as a structure, as an operational template. Now let's proceed to the second point, which is really to amplify this experience, reflection, interplay in the broader CLEP. We'll try to unpack in the remaining minutes the reimagining of the implementation of the design of CLEP using what we call in the Ateneo system as the Ignatian pedagogical paradigm. Right? So before we proceed to the unpacking of that concept, how is CLEP being implemented in your law school? Very packed question. But if you could summarize it in a sentence, that could be helpful. How is CLEP being implemented in your law school? And then my second question is, in your view, how should the program be designed for it to be meaningful to you? Right, so if you have any thoughts about it, please feel free to write it down in the chat box. So if wala, I will proceed. Okay, so let me just drink coffee. The first question is, how is CLEP being implemented in your law school? So when I say how, is it purely community service, like you go and teach the law, or does it have a litigation component? Does it have a policy component? So there is a, okay. Let me try to right. So we are still trying very important points here because, again, this is a very new program. So um, we are still looking in that good spot, no? How we can position our centers to be effective agents of access to justice. So I'm just trying to. We've conducted a legal clinic so far. We have a student from Palawan State, but to date, we haven't have a regular one yet. Okay, right. Okay, so I think one thing common here is we are still trying to develop the program. We still try to find that space where we can flourish as a center, as a program. So our attempt this afternoon on the second point is explore a pedagogy, no, that might be useful. No, it can be something that would inspire you to innovate it in your own law schools or iterate it in your own law schools. So this is something that we are also experimenting in our law schools. It starts with the IPP. What is the IPP? The Ignatian Pedagogical Paradigm. It's actually a very old paradigm founded by our saint of the Ateneo system, Saint Ignatius of Loyola. It's an interplay of several factors. It is an interplay of action, context, experience, reflection, action. And it is founded on the belief that education has to go beyond the mere mechanism of transmission of, of information from professors to students. No? It should be more than an experience in memorization or a cognitive transaction. Education is meant to be transformational. No? There should be a transformational experience that affects the law student in all levels: cognitive, behavioral, emotional, social. And the approach, they say, is that through the IPP: context, experience, reflection, action. So how does this actually interplay? Context, it starts with context. Context is knowing where you are. What is your position? And it requires you to know the situation of your community. The second one is then you have to actually dive into an experience. Let me just grab one of my outlines to further the point. So again, we start with context and then experience. Diba? You always hear that experience is the best teacher, but there is actually more meaning to that. No? Experience, the purpose of experience is to actually situate you in the actual tension of things. What does that mean? You actually you're very proximate to the problem. You could actually see the problem. You do not just learn the concepts, the legal concepts of due process or equal protection, but you actually associate faces, narratives, and people behind those concepts, right? So it is engagement in the community that fully involves you. Then after you experience it, like for example, in Tabang Legal, you immerse yourself in the interaction of clients, there should be a reflection. It should be followed by reflection of the experiences and all the reactions that it caused you. So yan yung importance of reflection. It forces you, in a sense, to probe your internal movement of your heart. What are the things that moved me? What are the things that troubled me? Why are these things the way they are? Like, these are very important questions that our students should be confronted with for them to have a more holistic appreciation of their work, and as well as an opportunity for them to clarify why they reacted that way. No, parang, for example, I interviewed a mother who's struggling to support his child, and you were so moved, and you were moved to tears because you realized that you see, parang you have a personal connection to that because you've experienced that yourself, right? So pinpointing those emotional points are very important in making sense of the experience, because these are the raw materials for one to lead into action, right? The action component can involve personal choices or a community level action, right? It often translates to a commitment to a particular lifestyle or a career. in addressing social inequities, right? So since you've realized that I value so much women empowerment or women fighting violence against women because it's a personal experience, you've gained that from your reflection, then your action is that you're more committed to fighting for women's rights. And it goes on and on. So that's basically how the IPP works. And my next slide is how do we then translate the IPP into a CLEP design, right? And this is basically it. Um, in our model, we try to experiment on two CLEPs. We have a second year CLEP, which is actually the context. We call it CLEP 1 Rights Literacy Initiative, where students, all student practitioners, are required to organize into teams, choose a community, and they need to, we develop a form for them to actually assess the community's legal information needs, because that will be their basis for their program design. They're required to implement two rights sessions, rights literacy sessions with the communities. And the important point here is all of them in the group should be able to lecture. So walang pwede na in charge lang siya sa PowerPoint or siya lang in charge sa registration table. Everybody should lecture. So we're trying to hit communication skills. We also need try to hit their ability to simplify legal language, and at the same time provide them context, because they will be actually interviewing the community before they actually roll out their rights literacy. So that's the second year context component. How about the experience? We tried to, well, it's a requirement already. After their CLEP 1, everybody is required to undergo either an externship or an internship. Externship with our 10 partners in Region 10, and internship in our SUKLA, in the Legal Aid Center. That's during summer. But for the internships at SUKLA, it's going to be a 1-year commitment, right? So this is the experience component. They will actually be immersed in public service. They will be immersed in the community. They will be immersed in the tabang legal. So this is the venue where they will be fed with this experience. And then we also embedded this yearly reflection component. Now, we call this the Service Learning Summit. Every end of the year, we gather everybody in the law school, not just CLEPers, not just student practitioners, but everybody in law school, and listen to the reflections and to the reports of some of the projects under CLEP. Why do we do this? Aside it's a space for reflection, it's also a space for forming culture. We want the entire law community to see the importance of CLEP, not just during their CLEP, actual CLEP classes, no, but it's for the entire community. And as I've said earlier, reflection is embedded in every activity. So meron talaga kaming reflection questions after their rights literacy initiative. We have a reflection question for their externship. So it's always embedded. And then the third year is the action component, and that's the CLEP 2. Legal Empowerment Project. What do they do now in CLEP 2? Just to differentiate, in CLEP 1, they just delivered legal information. That's it. In CLEP 2, it now seeks to form not just legal, but also meta-legal skills. This includes stakeholder analysis, training, policy development. So for CLEP 2, students are now required to, it's organized based on themes, and now they're required to not just deliver legal information, but they're actually required to train through a paralegal training. They're also required to produce knowledge products and also propose policies. And this is the action component, where all their learnings in CLEP 1, their externship, is now deployed in actual community building. So these are just examples. Now, CLEP 1, these are all rights literacy sessions. So these are just the collection of their reports. So as you can see, no, it's also mixed. Meron kaming online, meron kaming offline. And then the externship. So that's our partners. And then this is the Service Learning Summit. No? This is where the best projects were presented, in some externs who were sharing their experiences, etc. And everybody in law school, they're required to actually join this. No? So it's really an event, an institutional event. And this is CLEP 2. So for its first year of implementation, we have three themes, no? Youth for Justice, which is organizing a paralegal training program for barangay-based youth organizations, and development of a legal aid manual. Because 2022 is an election year, we have an election and democracy component, which includes the organizing of Valente chapter, and we also had a seminar on combating disinformation and the promotion of press freedom. We had a paralegal training for local journalists. And then one class was assigned to climate justice. No? Cagayan de Oro City is located in a river basin, and we want to help improve the management of that river basin. And we've included there not just training of the Bantay Dagat and Bantay Gubat personnel, but we've also engaged LGUs in the development of an implementing rules and regulations of the payment for ecosystem services in one of the municipalities. And they've already submitted their IRR. So this is CLEP 2, right? So you see now the distinction. No? CLEP 1 is just rights literacy. CLEP 2 is action-oriented. So this is ultimately our hope, no? That in the process of experiencing these things, we influence our law students to look into their three roles as lawyers. And the three roles is the first one. No? They have to also understand that they are social healers. Social healing, what does that mean? No? Social healing means, lawyers should have social instincts, no, to repair and mend strained or broken relationships. Because if you think about it, doctors are healers because they heal the physical brokenness of people. Lawyers are also healers in a sense that we mend the social brokenness. No? Ano ba yan? Like, may illegal arrest ba? Or may kapitbahay na nag-away? Your role there is to actually mend broken. So I think point here is we need to nurture their role as healers by teach them how to craft, how to improve their negotiation skills, their compromising, compromise skills, etc. Next role is they're also technicians. No? This is the basic expectation. Laws are tools, and lawyers should know how to use tools and what to use them, in different factual circumstances. So this means that aside from you giving service, you have to teach the law students how to understand the facts. No? What's the legal issue? What's the law being invoked? And how do you reach a conclusion, right? That's actually technician work. That's the basic. And the third role, it now steps into the socio-political aspect of the legal profession. And this is very important. You have to make them realize that as lawyers, they're actually institution builders. What does that mean? They have to help strengthen accountability, transparency, responsiveness, language. And since our institutions operate within a reality, we should be able to develop skills beyond the traditional lawyering. No? We need to understand what is stakeholder analysis, what is systems thinking, design thinking, and other tools to address social ills. So that's the intention of CLEP 2 actually. Making them realize that their life is more than just litigation in court. So what would be the ultimate end? Ultimately, the aim, as far as we are concerned, like the CLEP, it's not just about the promotion of the rule of law, right? It is not just about access to justice. It is actually towards building a culture that promotes the rule of justice. And when we say the rule of justice, it's different from the rule of law. In one graduation speech, now retired Senior Associate Justice Carpio underscored that our society's aim is to achieve the rule of justice. The rule of justice involves not only enacting just laws, no, but it entails the nurturing of mindsets, values, norms that is rooted in the respect of human dignity and the protection of freedoms. And law is just one aspect of that. Lawyers should understand that law is just one aspect, right? And it cannot be emphasized enough, no, that the legal system, the legal education system, plays a central role in promoting this culture. So, with this in mind, no, CLEP should ultimately be viewed not only as a pedagogical tool, but more importantly, it should be viewed as a culture transforming agent, which can form competent lawyers who see their profession as a solemn mission in this greater project of, going back to the preamble, building a more just and humane society, a more just and humane Philippines. So that is pretty much my presentation this afternoon. I do hope that it is useful to you as you try to rethink about your CLEP programs. And I just want to say that it's really an honor to be with you all. It is an honor to pioneer this program in our own law schools, no, since it's very new. So let us be imaginative and courageous in really fighting for the dignity of every Filipino. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, attorney. To those individuals who has their respective questions, they can um, actively contact Attorney Ernesto by raising your hand in order to address your question po.
So I also shared here my email address if you have questions.
Attorney, I think a while ago you asked a question regarding how is CLEP being implemented in your law school. I think,
We have a couple of answers, no?
yeah,
We do both traditional and developmental legal aid. It's very important. The barangay, the engagement in the barangay, and the conduct of online seminars, very important. Um, yeah, the 6 goals of CLE should be addressed. Certain community conduct legal seminars. We had combination of externship with various government agencies and outreach programs. So, right, I think we don't have any more questions. So if you have any other questions, you could email me right here. So again, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you learned something. Ngayong hapon sa tanan.
thank you, attorney. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much po, Attorney Ernesto Neri. And thank you very much din sa ating mga participants. So we'll have our virtual coffee break from, I think it's 2:21 until 2:45. So um, see you po.